Hi everyone and welcome to the Tony Tonkin Show. Now, a regular thing from now on will be doing a range of topics that are the flavour of the month, and one of those particular topics today is about Jacinda Ardern giving up her prime ministership and what that means, and all the people on the right wing who are going bananas over this, and what a terrible, disgusting person Jacinda is. We're also going to be having a look at Tony Abbott and the fact that it looks like he has no other job to do, so he might be applying for the vacancy in the Senate. We're looking at First Nations people. We're going to have a look at the clown Michael Clark and what he has done as well, and a whole range of topics. And then we're going to another session where we're talking about Twitter twits, and I'm going to take you through my Twitter feed and have a look at the topics that the crazy people on Twitter are discussing. So join with me, stay with me for the news. So one of the things I want to look at today is, as I just said, is Jacinda Ardern, and there's an article that was printed in the Conversation, which is a fabulous newspaper if you're a bit leftish leaning, I guess, but it does tend to give a relatively balanced view of what's happening in the media, and has some terrific comments to make about all topics, I guess. So what we're going to look at is what the Conversation has said about Jacinda Ardern. Now, Jacinda is a controversial figure, I guess, because number one, she's a woman. Don't know why that needs to be controversial, but apparently it is. That she had a child while a parliamentarian, who dare does that? Men don't do that. So, whether a woman should or not, obviously, is a debatable issue, I guess. The fact that she was unmarried is another issue, and the fact that her partner, Clark, stayed at home and looked after child and was a home dad. So all those reasons together for the right wing are, hell, she's a disgusting, terrible person because she's not necessarily, she's not male, and she's not married and all those other things. So they were horrified at the fact that this person could be a prime minister. And not only that, she was the youngest prime minister of a country, or leader of a country in history. And to make things worse, she was popular. Not only popular with the New Zealand population, but worldwide she was popular. I mean, I've watched her many times on the Stephen Colbert Late Show, and she had a lot of followers. And she was recently, when he talked about that this week, about her leaving, the crowd moaned. She was a very popular figure. And the question, and of course that is an issue for the right wing, because how dare you have someone who's a progressive being popular with people not just in their country but around the world as well. It's an atrocious state of affairs, and as a result of that, the right wing have gone right off their nuts in terms of trying to attack her and making her appear to be something that she simply is not. And when we have a look at those attacks on her in a moment, perhaps you will see exactly what that means. I think it's absolutely disgusting. So we're going to go to an article in the Conversation, and they start off, "Uneasy is the head that wears the crown," which is a Shakespeare quote. I knew that because I'm so up on Shakespeare. It's not a new idea that top-level leadership jobs are intensely stressful and pose a heavy toll. Extended periods of stress are known to put people at risk of burnout. And I think that it's important to note that the other thing I think that others on the other side of politics object to is that she made a decision to give up and to let it go because she was open and honest about the fact that she just didn't have anything left in the tank in order to be able to do her job. Now, most politicians wouldn't even admit to that, and particularly men would not even think about saying that they could appear weak as a result of not having enough in the tank to do the job. So The other criticism, therefore, is that she is weak because she's not like men who would have, kept on going regardless of everything that she was confronted. I mean, Jacinta also has received death threats. Her whole family has been maligned. There have been threats against everybody in her family. She's had enough. And I think as a politician, many politicians have enough, but they haven't got the guts to be able to say that they need to pull the plug. At least Jacinta has said that. And as a result, she's out. Now, the article goes on to say, there's probably few of us can ever grasp just how unrelentingly demanding and difficult leading a country actually is, especially in times of crisis. So this is the bit I'm reading here. With our media, our modern media and online environment, every statement and every move a leader makes is subject to extensive scrutiny and commentary. Increasingly, a troubled feature of the commentary about New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinta Ardern has been its abusive, violent, sexist and misogynist. And no one, and I think we need to note this, no one ever admits that the statements they make about anybody is hurtful. They think, for whatever reason, that they've got an open slather, that they can say or do whatever they like because no one necessarily is going to hold them to account. So, unfortunately, that's the state of play in politics today. We notice it right across the world where right-wing violence and intimidation and abuse can take place with very little consequences for doing any of that. The article goes on to say, while she has not focused on this as a reason for her decision to resign yesterday, being targeted in this way and knowing her partner and even her child were also targeted. Like, who does that? What morons would target a 4-year-old child? Unbelievable. Must surely have made an already difficult job so much more challenging. Crises have long been understood as the most intensive test of a leader's skill and character. They involve making weighty decisions at times about matters that quite literally have life and death implications. Decisions have to be made at speed, but often with insufficient information to confidently predict the consequences of the choices made. And I think that this is specifically referring to Jacinta's decision in relation to COVID-19. And there was one case where she had a few cases come into the country and she locked it down straight away. Now, she didn't do that as a popularity contest. She didn't do it because a whole lot of people on one side were telling her that she had to. She did it because I think she personally believed that this was definitely the right thing to do for the country. So it wasn't about power or about authority or that sort of stuff. If it was, this woman would have stayed longer than what she has. If it was about power. No, it wasn't. It was about doing the right thing and having the courage to do that. And there were many people around the world who admired her for that. Her handling of the Christchurch terror attacks won her global admiration for her composure, compassion, and decisive resolve to ensure such heinous acts could not be repeated here. Her response to the Wairakei White Island eruption garnered similar praise, showing yet again, and I forgot about that actually, showing yet again her intuitive grasp that a leader offering support to those caught up in such a distressing event actually makes a difference. That Ardern has sought to combine compassion and kindness with the courage to make tough decisions is a key feature of her style. And it's that style that the others, those people on the other side, whoever they might be, will find disagreement, because you can't, according to them, show signs of strength, of compassion, of understanding, being intuitive. You can't do those things because it's usually the males that criticise. There's some crazy right-wing women that tend to want to do the same, probably because they're jealous, who knows. But nevertheless, those criticisms are unfounded and probably tell us more about the person making the criticism than they actually do about the person they are criticising. So, and there's so the Guardian also has an article, and I think this is worth noting some of this stuff as well. So they're saying that Ardern says she slept soundly for the first time in a long time as colleagues in New Zealand deplore her treatment as PM and race begins to replace her. And so they're disgusted at the way she's been treated as their Prime Minister. Speaking briefly with reporters outside Hawke's Bay Airport on Friday, Ardern says she was feeling a range of emotions and had no regrets about leaving the job. I of course feel sad, but also I do have a sense of relief. Prominent New Zealand political leaders and public figures, however, say that constant vilification, abuse and personal attacks contributed to the burnout, with some MPs saying the Prime Minister was driven from office and calling for New Zealand to re-examine its political culture. And so they should, and so we all should, in fact. Stop attacking people. However, I do need to say that there's a part of me that thinks that if you're going to attack others, then you're opening yourself up to the same sort of attack. What goes around, what comes around. Good quote. Turn the other cheek? Not necessarily. Forgive? No, never. But find a way to let other people know that the statements they're making are harmful and abusive. And I think what is particularly sad in this instance with Jacinda is that it has had an effect on her and her family, a detrimental effect. And again, I think that gives these people power to know that they've been influenced someone like Jacinda. But we need to acknowledge the type of person that she is and the benefits she served her country because of who she is. Now, I'm going to take you to the counter-argument, which is experienced on, believe it or not, Sky News. How are we surprised? Hey, you really are. Sky News would have to put to a counter. So we've had some of the conversation in The Guardian. And also, maybe I'll go to Sheridan's first. I wonder if I could find his. No, I can't. I think I had one from. So there's an article in the Weekend Australian, which wasn't too bad. That's right. This was it. I might have to bring it up again. Bear with. So, yeah, this is the article. So I'll bring this up and we can have a look too. So this is by Greg Sheridan. Now, I don't want to say anything nasty about Greg, but he's not a very nice bloke. I think we could be honest about that. And he's disingenuous in terms of the way he speaks about Jacinda. But on the other hand, he did say something at the beginning of this article which at least was kind of partly complimentary. So on one hand, he says something that is reasonably nice, I think, and then he beats her over. And this is about her succeeding. In his opinion, she succeeded because she was because of the accolades and celebrations they had around her personality. And it wasn't about her image. It is just about her personality. She's a good person, nice person, so why wouldn't we expect that to come across? Thank God not everybody's a Peter Dutton. That's all I can say. So in this particular scathing type article, he says, so he starts off, Jacinda Ardern was a dreadful Prime Minister of New Zealand. Well, we'll get off to a start, don't we, there? Let's criticise her by blanketly saying she was a terrible Prime Minister for New Zealand. It's one of these moments where you just like to say to people like Greg Sheridan, are you having a go at New Zealanders? Like, is this an anti-New Zealand thing? When Morrison was the worst Prime Minister Australia's ever had, along with John Howard, and yet, we don't hear him actually criticising, I don't think, Morrison or Howard for the potential mess that they created, or the mess that Morrison in particular created. All her economic instincts were bad. All her strategic instincts were bad. Now, so he goes on to say, failed in substance, but succeeded. So this is the thing that got me. Succeeded wildly in image. So this is the thing that. So he cannot stomach the fact that a New Zealand Prime Minister was able to garnish a great deal of success around the world. And the small country don't really have that much political influence anywhere else, but she was popular, and she was popular because she was a good person. All her economic instincts were bad, So this is the all or nothing argument that you get from the right wing. So they'll say everything is bad. So that's bullshit, because some things might be bad. Some things may not be done as well as what they could have been. First to admit that, we need to call it out when it happens. But as soon as someone says all things are bad, as soon as they make that all or nothing type statement, you can be guaranteed that they're displaying a bias, without a doubt. Because that just tells us that whatever comes after this in this article is simply going to be biased against her. Because this man cannot find anything decent to say about Jacinta. And so all her instincts were bad. All her strategic instincts were bad. So there's nothing good about this woman. Not only were politically she was bad, but her strategic instincts were bad. Now that's probably, according to Greg Sheridan, because she's a woman, and that women can't have appropriate instincts because they're too hysterical. Let's face it. And they can't make appropriate decisions when they're emotional. So that would be a stark... See, so when you've got these misogynists like this bloke talking about someone like Jacinta Ardern, you can see quite clearly where those biases lie. She had a great desire to undo productive economic reform and remove or shut down the engines of economic growth for what should be a nation of limitless opportunities. Well, they have a limited population, so they don't have limited opportunities. But so this is where he makes that statement. And her strategic instincts were bad. She had a great desire to undo productive economic. So he doesn't talk about what were the economic catastrophes that must have happened under Jacinta Ardern. It is worth noting, though, that she's a Labor politician, whereas I'm sure Greg Sheridan is extreme right in terms of his political affiliations, and I have no doubt that he's the sort of person that sung praises around George Pell. So it tells us a lot about the type of person he is. Nonetheless, for a time... so this I love. So he criticises the shit out of her, and then he says, nonetheless, for a time, she was a very successful politician. For what length of time did you have in mind, Greg? Was it a day? Was it a week, a month, a year? What was it? So she had one genuine achievement. She reacted with dignity and moral seriousness. So when a crisis arose, so when the Christchurch crisis arose, he at least has to acknowledge that she reacted with dignity and moral seriousness to the Port in Christchurch. I mean, that is the way we'd expect any politician or any human being to react. I mean, except for Morrison, of course, but there again, that would be another story. So it'd be holidaying in Hawaii or somewhere if a catastrophe like that happened, and it wouldn't bother to engage with anybody to discuss it. But Jacinta, as a result of that, within 10 days, they passed legislation that outlawed automatic weapons. So she was, I personally, in case you haven't got this version of what I'm trying to present here, I think Jacinta Ardern was an amazing woman who did a lot for her country. There are a lot of people over there who don't think she did enough. There's a lot of people who objected to her lockdowns, so all the right-wing sovereign citizen type people come out and object to the way she did that. But at the end of the day, she was protecting her country just like all the other countries around the world were endeavouring to do. She chose to do it in her way. It's unique because they're a small island. So locking the country down was pretty easy for her. So that's the story about Jacinta. There was this other. Oh, that's right. This is the Greg Sheridan article I was referring to. Actually, it was the same one, but he referred to her as being woke. So this is another indicator that you're sitting on the right of politics when you start referring to people as woke, because clearly that is meant to be an insult. Right, so I'm just going to change tact for a second. I just want you to remember that this is what we're watching, so thanks for sticking with me. So we're having a look at the crappy side of newspapers, but we're having a look at some interesting stuff as well. Now, The Voice is a thing which I'm going to be talking about for some time, until such time as we have a vote, because we need to be able to be more aware of where Indigenous issues sit in this country, and we certainly need to be more dedicated in terms of meeting and deciding upon how we're going to deal with Indigenous issues. Best way is to give that power and authority to Indigenous people so that they can help to contribute to the decisions that are likely to be made in relation to their well-being. Now, this is why The Voice is important. However, we've got one side now, the Labor Party supporting it, we've got the Greens supporting it, I think in general. We've got the Independents to some extent and the Teals supporting it. We've got people like One Nation and the Crazy Party choosing not to. And then we've got the Liberal Party, who are basically, in essence, thinking, well, shall we support this or not? Let's use this as a political football so we can object to as many things as we can. Because basically, that's what we do. No matter how good an idea is, we have to find a hole in it somewhere so that we can demonstrate that we're the ones who have got the authority and power to make change. When you haven't, you live in a dream. Shut up, be quiet, do the right thing, really is what we should be saying to them. So Samantha Maiden wrote an article in the... I'll just make this more viewable for you, if I can. So it says Mr Dutton needs to decide whether he stands on constitutional recognition and the voice to Parliament. I think Samantha's generally pretty good. The summer holidays are drawing to a close, and the Cheats Guide to this year's big debate on constitutional recognition of the voice to Parliament has landed. The Prime Minister Anthony Albanese can explain it. And this is one of the issues that they're casting doubt around, I think. They're saying basically that there's not enough information about the Constitution and the voice in particular, I guess, and how that relates to the Constitution. And the argument is that the government should be able to put forward legislation that will determine a group of people, Indigenous people, who would sit in the House, well, not sit in the House, but would be advising to the House around Indigenous affairs. Now, that's probably true. Whether it will get the number of votes is another issue. So that's one issue. The other issue is whether or not we should have Indigenous people recognised in our Constitution. And the answer to that one, for me, is clearly yes, we should. Why not? What harm is it going to do? It's just a bit of ink on a piece of paper, but what does it mean to Indigenous people to be recognised when it wasn't until 1966 or 67 that they weren't even recognised as Australians and weren't even allowed to vote? So we've disenfranchised them since day one, since the time Cook landed in Botany Bay, and we have continued to disenfranchise them all the way through. They are the First Nations people. They were here long before we were. They have significant rights, and they are disadvantaged, the most disadvantaged people in our community. So it is important, therefore, for all those reasons, that they get recognised in our Constitution and that they have a voice to whatever happens in Parliament or legislation that's likely to be passed and how that will impact them. That seems more than reasonable to me. Now, she also goes to say in the article, the Prime Minister Anthony Albanese can't explain it. The Liberal Party, Peter Dutton, won't say whether or not he supports it. Good times, it's a dire state of affairs which acts as a depressing reminder that the current crop of politicians sometimes leave a lot to be desired. I think she's spot on. I don't think necessarily we can agree that, or maybe we can agree, that politicians in general are crap. But what we need to agree on is that we're the ones that elect them for those positions, and if we don't like them, we could kick them out and find other people. And I always think it's fascinating, those people that object the most to politicians are usually those people who would never stand for local government or stand in any other area to advocate for the changes that they require. Even as independents, they don't tend to do that. So I guess the last thing I want to say about The Voice is that we're going to, and she says it here, we're going to be hearing much more about The Voice and how it will impact all of us and how that's going to look when we go to a referendum. And I'm looking forward to it because I'm looking forward to find out who are the real racists in this country. And they will be those people who will choose not to vote for The Voice. Even though, I will qualify that to say that there are some Indigenous people who are seeking a treaty and other things and aren't satisfied with the way this is looking. But I think they're holding out for something more than what they'll ever get. So we'll have to wait and see in that regard. Now, just getting back to the fact that this is what it's all about. So the other crap that I'm going to talk about is Michael Clarke. I apologise to Michael Douglas for that. I just want to have a chat just briefly about celebrities and how we tend to want to, focus on the fuck-ups they do, the things that they do that are stupid, the things they do that are reprehensible, the things they do that just make them look stupid. Now, a lot of people do the sort of stuff that Michael Clarke did here, regretfully, where they might hit a woman and act badly. But when Michael Clarke does it and Carl Stefanovic are involved, then for some reason it becomes a big deal. So you might have seen this on Facebook and YouTube and in the newspapers. But it has been confirmed that the police are investigating an incident between former Australian cricketer, who cares? He's not playing cricket anymore. I think he had a radio show, and his girlfriend Jade Yarborough. The Queensland Police Services confirmed in a statement on Thursday it was investigating the incident, which was made public when footage of the scuffle was obtained by News Corp. Well, isn't that fortunate? The video showed the woman accusing Clarke of cheating before slapping him, while Today Show host Carl Stefanovic and his wife Jasmine, Jade's sister, attempted to intervene. The footage shows Clarke repeatedly denying cheating. So, didn't want to focus too much on it, apart from letting you all know that I don't give a shit. But this stuff happens, and sometimes people want to talk about it. I don't know why. I did today. But there again, I'm the first person in the world to admit that I'm not perfect. So I want to go to our final session on that I'm going to have a look at, and that is this new session I've got, which is on Twitter Twits. Now this is about my Twitter feed. Now, my Twitter feed is probably a lot like most other people's Twitter feed, but maybe not. Maybe mine's a little bit more political because of the type of people that I have on my Twitter feed. And we're going to go back and have a chat about Jacinda as well, because that seems to be one of the most important things that's happening on Twitter. Um, so, and it's a bit about some dickheads. Oh, that's right. I just wanted to say. So one of the things lately that has been concerning me since the incidents in Queensland, where a couple of police officers and a private citizen were killed, was sovereign citizens. So I came across. So I'll bring up my Twitter feed so you can all have a look at it, which is most exciting. And there's this thing here. So this is so I don't even know. So that's right. They're complaining about the fact that that we now have decimal currency, and that for some reason decimal currency isn't mentioned in the Constitution, and it isn't British. So these people. Now I want you to tell me if you can figure out. I don't know if you can hear this or not. What this woman is saying.
In this country, dissolve the federal parliament, David, and issue the writs for a fresh election immediately.
I think
want all the documents.
I think this woman believes that the louder she yells, the more people will be able to hear her. I don't know where she was speaking, but my God, these are the sort of people that you think, I hope they never will stand in Parliament. I don't think there'd be enough people that would vote for them, but they are an embarrassment.
That Senator Heffernan produced to the Royal Commission, released to the public, unredacted, full truth, immediately. These two things are not up for negotiation, Governor General.
Well, I don't know whether we made it this, but apparently it's all about the fact that we have decimal currency and that it's against the law or whatever. You know, crazy friggin' people. They kind of amuse me though, I must confess. Right, now, where's the one? Oh, so this is the one. So this is Sky News. Now, did I bring up this article? Don't know whether I did, but I'll find it again. Yeah, I better put a stop to that. So this is about Jacinta again. So New Zealand outgoing Prime Minister Jacinta Ardern has a phoniness and fakeness about her, says author Douglas Murray. Oh, actually, I did have this up here. And so I'm gonna. So I just want you to watch this dude and tell me what you think. Oh, and she's with this other Rita Panari, who's just another freaking crazy presenter on Fox News. What can I say?
Jacinta Ardern, she enjoyed worldwide media adulation and one of the longest political honeymoons in recent history. But
don't you love that? Political honeymoon in recent history, like. Where do you get off on this shit?
Finally, the New Zealand people woke up to her disastrous reign. And Douglas, I've got to say, you were one of the first to see through her empty moral posturing. You called her style of leadership
So how do they say that Jacinta, the New Zealand population, now population is waning. Not going to deny that, but that happens with anybody. She was at a high. You can't go any higher than where she went. And it's dropped down, okay? And they're arguing, there's another item here, they're arguing that she's going now because she knows she's going to lose the election. That isn't a fait accompli, no one knows. But nevertheless, this is the crap. So they've got this guy now, I don't know where this guy comes from. I haven't looked him up actually, which I normally do. But he sounds pommy to me, so he doesn't sound New Zealander. They sound better than this.
Formative caring.
Yes, that's right. I've thought this ever since I first really laid eyes on her. I think there's a phoniness about the woman. I think there's a fakeness.
So, the first time he saw her, he decided that she was phony. I should have put all this stuff together when I did the thing on Jacinta before, but this has come out of the the Twitter feed. So the Twitter twits are presenting this sort of shit. So he, as soon as he saw her, so there's nothing judgmental about this dude whatsoever, because the moment he saw her, he discovered that she was somewhat phony.
You can see it in her weird facial tics and gestures and her weird laugh.
Oh, for some reason it's come to an end. So I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened there, but the point is that there's these strange and peculiar people all criticising Jacinta for whatever reason. And so elsewhere on my Twitter feed, raise your hand if so this is Occupy Democrats, an amazing and historic second year in office. Oh, it wasn't pretty good. It was pretty good, I think, considering that everybody hates him and sees him as far too slow. So I don't know what that's about. Can't be bothered. Oh, that's what I was going to do. Oh no, I won't do that now. I've talked enough about her. So something about cats, not at all interested in that. All right, I like this one. Dr. Charlotte Proudman. Don't know who you are, but sometimes your posts are quite interesting. I wonder how many of the people shout misogynistic abuse at Jacinda Ardern are fans of Andrew Tate. Probably not. They can't put a sentence together. Criticising a country's leader for their policies is not misogyny. Oh no, that's not. I've just produced evidence that that's not what they're doing, you dick. So I don't know who Ollie is. Now that thought. Now, wow, that brought them out into the open. The responses show who they are without them actually admitting it. That's probably true. You see misogyny everywhere. Do you know? Do you know? Not get that a lot of Kiwis, all right, don't like her and would probably have voted her out. Nothing to do with her set. Well, and they might have too. I don't disagree with that. I despise both of them. I don't know who the both of them is. I'm very sorry to see this lovely lady leave office. Use the word lovely, so I'm assuming that this, whoever he is, she's an older person. She gave a lot of people hope, women and decent people around the world. And I agree with that. She gave a lot of the decent people around the world and reminds us of how beautiful humanity can be. That's a lovely contribution, I think. And there's some conversation about Murdoch's press, which I thought interesting. And I'll talk about that in a second. Also, why is it that Murdoch's have such a long history of employing such blatantly sexist, worker-hating, abusing, defending and denialist, revisionist journalists across the newspapers, Sky and Fox stables? What does that say about, Rupert himself? Fair enough. So, and the other thing too that I thought was interesting, I might just finish on this note, is that that I don't think there's a Rupert Murdoch. There's not a Rupert Press in New Zealand, and the Rupert Media. So even though there might be Sky News, I think. But the point was that she had no influence. She was not influenced by Murdoch whatsoever. We can't say that for our own politicians here in Australia, and we cannot say that about politicians in the US and the UK. She stood alone. She refused to be influenced by them. And as a result of that, she was vilified continually and had to leave. So there seems to be a lot of conversation. Didn't mean to turn it out this way. A lot of conversations about Jacinta and some crazy woman talking about decimal currency. But I hope you enjoyed that. If you want to come back and have a look, please subscribe. So subscribe here, ring the bell. If you wish to contact me directly, you can do so on my email address, which is this one, and you can have a look at my webpage where you'll probably eventually find this video at tonytonkin.com.au. So thanks everybody for being here. Take care, look after yourselves, and more importantly, be safe.